Okay, welcome back. Just wanted to talk about the film The Substance, which I watched last night on YouTube for free. Somebody uploaded a bit of a ropey copy. Um, you had to slow it down slightly just to get it to work kind of right. And I think that added to it because it was slightly sped up. And some of the elements in the film are hyper real, surreal, um, quirky. I'm thinking about the moment where Dennis Quaid is eating the shrimp, and another scene where he's leaving with the board members, and they're all sort of walking and running down the hallway like this. So I say that when it was sped up a little bit, it sort of added to it. The vocals, the dialogue was sort of normal speed, but everything else was a little bit off. And I think that was intentional in this film anyway. Certain things were jarring, certain things were a little bit off key on purpose, and I knew I was going to enjoy this film from the get go because, like, seeing little images, little stills, I immediately realised the influences from this film. I mean, recently I watched for the first time From Beyond, um, and the practical effects in that are similar to this. Another film, Society, I found more disturbing than this film, actually, just the way the bodies morph and stuff. So if you have a stomach for the substance, definitely go and watch Society. That is sort of, that grossed me out more than this one anyway. And From Beyond's quite fun as well. It doesn't really make a lot of sense, but if you like this sort of practical effects, other films that this took influence from are The Thing, another film I saw when I was younger and I didn't really appreciate it. Maybe I was sort of grossed out by the effects by, I think, Rob Bottin on that. But I've watched it recently and I really really appreciate that film now for what it is. Um, and other films it's took inspiration from, probably Videodrome, The Fly, all that sort of David Cronenberg body horror stuff. Um, Certain scenes and certain effects from The Shining, like the old woman in the bath, definitely some influence there. A lot of hallways, carpets, similar patterns to the Overlook Hotel, and but I don't see that as a bad thing. Whereas I watched Prometheus, not Prometheus, Romulus recently, and that just took everything from every alien film and tried to mash it together into some sort of cohesive, and it didn't work. It just didn't work. But this film took all those elements and come up with, I'd say, an original story, original concept, quite basic in its idea, um, but it's very relatable to men and women. I'd say more so women. Um, Directed by a female, and Demi Moore herself, having spent so much money on plastic surgery, her view is the film is about self acceptance and stuff, where it's a little bit ironic if you've spent that much money on plastic surgery. You have this sort of body dysmorphia view, and the pressures put on you by Hollywood, society, peer pressure, and the that female pressure to stay young, stay relevant, stay attractive. Um, so from that point of view, some people will not like this film. Some people will be um, appalled. A lot of people walk out of this film apparently in the cinema. This is one I would say is worth seeing in the cinema, for the sound effects, for the visuals. I think it would look really good at the cinema. If it's still on, I might actually go and see it. Um, but elements I really did appreciate. I did like. Dennis Quaid eating the shrimp. That was to me the grossest part of the film. I have recently had food poisoning, and I think shrimp were involved with that. So that was a touchy subject. I have had food poisoning in the past, and it's had to do with shrimp. So the way he was just eating these shrimp with the sauce and just the flopping around and just the sound effects of him eating were just totally repulsive. The scene where he's in the toilet and he's talking and he's saying like, we got to get a new person, don't care what we promised her, and we got to get somebody new and fresh and vibrant and and it's just close-ups a lot. And he leaves the toilet without washing his hands. He's just a pig. And then there's other close-ups on his mouth, which just looks like a butthole. Just the close-ups of his mouth blowing smoke out. It's horrible. And it's just a really well-made film. If you like horror and you like those sort of films that I mentioned, then I say this isn't a film that rips off everything and tries to copy everything. It takes influences, which is a totally different thing. Like that Alien Romulus film was a total rip-off and a total waste of time, waste of money, and the practical effects in this film were done so well. And hats off to Demi Moore. You know, she's not afraid of going full nude and showing warts and all. And some people say this film's a bit misogynist. I don't see it that way at all. I didn't see it as titillating, kind of like Showgirls, where there's lots of flesh on show, but there's no real titillation. It's kind of done ironically. It's done. It's kind of like Paul Verhoeven's RoboCop and Showgirls. It's done. It's got that ironic sense of humour to it. It's like extreme close-ups on genitals and stuff like that. You don't see anything. It's done pretty tastefully, I think. And it has got a message. It's got a positive message. It's like, accept yourself, because go down the routes of plastic surgery and this is where it can end. Not to this extreme, but you know, I think Demi Moore will get Oscars and all that sort of stuff, and I think it's rightfully deserved. I think it's quite a shock and quite surprising to see a film like this these days. I don't know what sort of budget was they had for this film, or I don't know how much Demi Moore costs and Dennis Quaid costs, but pardon me. I think it's a I was going to say brave. It's not a brave film. They've definitely calculated there's a market for it, and it's relevant with the whole Ozempic stuff, with people injecting themselves to lose weight, and there's definitely a lot you can take from this film. And if you can stomach it, I was glued to it. I thought it was brilliant, and I don't say that lightly, and I don't say that about a lot of films. I mean, I have watched quite a few good and bad films lately, which I'll talk about in another video. But this one is definitely worth your time. One that I will pick up on physical media at some point. At the moment, I've got a copy on tape, and I will be rewatching that again. And tell me your thoughts. Did you like the film? Did you do you like the other films that I mentioned, like Society, From Beyond, Videodrome, The Fly? Do you like that kind of body horror style? Won't be for everybody, but done really well. I don't think there was much CGI in this film at all. It looked pretty much all practical, which is thumbs up from me.